I felt for the first person to tell me everything that I wanted to hear. And I thought, this is what I've been waiting on. This is it. And as I talked to the counselor, and he took me immediately, I think it's to Proverbs 4, and it says, the words of an adulterous woman drip are like honey to the ears. And it's like, and that's exactly what it was. As looking back at it now, as I went through that whole process of that, I could remember thinking, cannot believe that I'm doing this. Not believe. In a million years, I said I would never be in this position, and this would never happen. I want my family. I love my family. And it wasn't about not loving my family. It was about the selfishness of me needing to hear things that I wanted to hear.
Welcome to Witnessed.
Not just a podcast, but a platform where stories of God's goodness become living proof of His faithfulness, inviting all who listen to believe.
You'll hear the voice of the redeemed, real people, real encounters, real transformation. Each story a reminder that the gospel is not distant history. It's alive, moving, and reaching to the ends of the earth.
Our mission is simple, that as you listen, your faith is strengthened, your hope renewed, and that you discover and deepen a relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, step in, lean close, and let us bear witness to the power and goodness of God.
Welcome to the episode number 6. With us today is Chris. He is part of our discipleship group, or used to be part of our discipleship group. Then he abandoned us. Chris is an awesome brother. We're always kind of messing with each other. There's a lot of love and respect, and we thought that it would be actually it's a very timely episode as we continue to walk in that call to firm. And so to start with, can you just give a brief introduction?
Oh man, introduction of myself. Well, I was born and raised here in Jacksonville.
One of the 10 people.
Yeah, right. Or which is kind of known as Southern Georgia. I think we discussed. But yeah, born and raised here in Jacksonville, in Florida. Most of my family is not here, but the core of my family on my dad's side was here. I was raised by and with. So just some background, I guess, on who I am. Raised by them and raised in the church.
Okay.
In the Baptist church, actually. So if you lived in the South, you were raised in the Baptist church, which we are considered part of the South. So yeah, raised in the Baptist church. My grandparents were heavily involved in the Baptist church, and really just kind of, I credit at least my grandmother for just praying me into salvation on that side. So yeah, so saved, I guess at an early age, I don't know, at 12 years old. I don't know if you consider yourself really, really saved at 12 years old, because that's what I remember, getting baptized. I remember my grandparents taking me up to the mountains and telling me about Jesus and doing the whole Baptist playbook,
Playbook, huh?
Yeah. If you died today, do you know if you're going to heaven? So there, yeah. And all the questions, the standard questions, and being in a hotel room and saying, no, I guess I don't. Well, you ask Jesus into your heart, and Jesus will come into your heart, and you're going to go to heaven. So I did at 12 and got baptized in the church. So yeah, but that quickly probably faded away during my teen.
Quickly, probably, definitely.
No, there's no it quickly faded away during my teen years. So yeah, so spent a lot of my teen years just in being very, very. So yeah. I also, I guess, and then met my wife.
How old were you?
And I met my wife when I was in my early 20s. Actually, before that, I got saved. Actually, I like to say I got for real saved at like 20. And the only reason why I know that is because I remember I couldn't wait to turn 21 so I could buy alcohol legally. And I remember getting saved, like radically saved at 20.
I mean, why so radical? What's the difference between?
Yeah, I guess at 20 years old, the way I saw it was, I always tell friends, a friend and I used to say, like, for real saved, where you want to just tell everybody about, you want to go down and share them with everybody, anything that breathes or walks or moves. Share Jesus. So that's what I remember. And the way I remember it, when I when I was born again, for real born again, I remember because a friend of mine, I used to play keyboard, play music, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I know a buddy." We were in the world together. And he said, "I know a friend of ours. He has like a little Christian group, and he needs somebody to play keyboard for him." And I thought, okay, well, I guess it'd be something I can do with my talent and my skill. I guess I could just play and it'll be cool and I'll do something right. And so I remember, and he was like a little group. They went to little churches on the north side. It was nobody there at the churches, but he would go and he'd take his few little people and play and they would sing. And he said, "Hey, Chris, just come along with me and watch." And I remember one night we went to this small church and there was probably, I don't know, probably about 10 people in it. And it was some revival night. But the fold out chairs, the whole nine. And I remember sitting there watching them sing. And I remember thinking, man, they're really doing something for God. And the next thing I know, I just remember tears just streaming down my face in that little church. And after that, man, I don't remember the date. Some people could say they remember their birthday, like the day they were saved. I don't remember that at all.
You might be the first Christian that I met that
No.
also doesn't remember their date. I don't remember mine either.
I don't remember that. I just remember from then on out, I was going in one direction at one time, and then the next day I was going in another direction, and and telling friends, saying, "I don't know what's happened. Jesus changed my life. Sorry guys, I can't hang out with you anymore." And telling them about it. I can't go here. I can't go there. I don't want to do this. And yeah. And I remember they were like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Actually, it was a group. It's going to sound funny coming from me, but there was this rap group this guy did, and he was like, I would play, like, add little background stuff. And he was like, "Chris, oh no, we can start doing Christian stuff. I'll start writing Christian raps." And I said, "Dude, no, it's just not the same. I can't do it anymore." And that was when I was officially, for me, born again.
So it sounds like wasn't this grandiose experience where you go and redo the same thing you did at 12. It was a small experience in a place. It's you and God.
Yeah, it really was. It was, man, it was just, to me, it's the way God works. It's just him taking you, to not do it in front of the church at 12, in front of a big Baptist church and get baptized. It was, I'm going to get you into the place no one would ever think you would be, being the only white guy in the room among 10 other people at some church on the north side. And I'm going to get you there. And that's where I'm going to move, where no one would think I could move. And that's what he did. And it's just like, anytime I always have my fallback. I always think, when you have your doubts as a Christian, you always think, man, Lord, well, what about this? What about that? If I ever come to any place of doubt, I always fall back to that night, because there's nothing that could have changed me. There was no manipulation. No one shared anything with me to manipulate me into it, or said, just say this or say this prayer and then you'll be saved. No one did that. It was just the Holy Spirit and myself. And it was just the ultimate change right then. Yeah. Then I always fall back and say, Lord, I know you got to be real, because nothing could have done that. Like,
You mentioned that there were some changes. Stop hanging out with certain people. How else do you see that got manifest over your life?
yeah. After that, I remember one time we went down and we'd go down to, like, I don't know if anybody goes to the Riverwalk anymore in Jacksonville, but then we went to the Riverwalk. That was the hangout.
It's coming back though.
Is it really?
Yeah.
You're building all over.
Reconstruction.
Really? So that's where you went to hang out, walk on the Riverwalk, and we would go down and we would share the gospel and be like, and one time a police officer came by and said, "Hey, you can't go and tell, if they ask you, you can share, but you can't just walk up to people." And when we left, we were like, man, we almost got arrested for Christ. We almost went to jail for Jesus. That's how you know you're born again.
All right. So then you mentioned you met your wife at
Yeah.
22, you said?
About 20, 23, 24, somewhere right around there. Yeah, officially met her. We didn't get married until I was 28.
So, what can you tell us about that relationship?
Oh man, so yeah, that we got married. The whole thing with my family then is that's what really kind of exposed a lot. So the same grandparents that my wife was African American. She always hated that term. My wife was a black woman. And so she when we got married, the same grandparents that witnessed to me, uh, shared the gospel with me, deacons in the church, everything, decided that, hey, that's not what we do. We don't interact with people of color. We don't. My grandfather, he used a lot of words that describe people of different colors in a colorful way and not the right way. So he would do that, and I always heard that growing up, but it never really rang true with me until I got married. Then when I got married, they decided on that side of the family, they decided that, yep, we can't have anything to do with him anymore. So the whole side of the family cut us off.
So that's the family where your dad's family that you grew up with.
Yeah, the ones that witnessed to me, the Christians that witnessed to me, shared the gospel with me, and just said, no, we can't. That's where we draw the line.
So did this start once you got married or before you got married?
Well, the cutting me off started when we got married. It just exposed what was already there in them,
Yeah.
what they already had, which was unusual because I didn't realize, my grandfather, he kind of led that, and then everybody else on that side kind of followed suit, and just never heard from anybody for 18 years until my grandfather died.
They say leave and leave. You really did that. You left or your family left you because you cleaved. I wasn't that 18 years. I was that period because you said the rest of your family didn't live here. So it was just you and your wife or
Yeah, well, my dad's side, my grandfather, they all lived here. On my mom's side, they did not, which is very ironic because they weren't the professed Christians of the group, but they're the ones that accepted everything openly and wholeheartedly. And they were the ones that lived really in the deep South. So if you're from the South, you understand what I'm saying. So they were from the deep South, and they opened their arms, but it was them on that side that, as Christians, said no, we're going to draw the line at.
So was your mother and father alive at this
Yeah. My
Okay.
mom and dad, they were divorced when I was young. Before I
Okay.
remember,
What was their opinion?
they didn't. They were totally open. My dad and my mom were great. They were good. They were fine with everything. So as far as
Dad about his
I didn't hear a lot from him about it, but from what I understand, he got in. He confronted him a lot. His dad, meaning my grandfather, he would confront him a lot about it. And that's all I ever heard about it, that he would let him know, hey, you don't accept this, then you can't accept. I know there were some arguments back and forth. I don't want to put words in their mouth because I don't know. I'm just going by third person, as
Sure.
they share down the line. But yeah, I know that there were some words that went back and forth. But my dad was always there, always open to it. Loved my wife like his own. So yeah, they were great.
How long were you guys dating before you got
Okay, so when we met, and we dated for a while, and then as you do in your early 20s, we split up. Didn't see each other for about 4 years and ran back into each other. And then I think maybe after maybe 6 months, you were like, hey,
how many you guys have kids?
yeah, we came in the marriage because I had already had two kids, older kids, and she had one. And so we came into a blended family. So then we had two together. So we had five altogether, and it was a blend.
How was that dynamic with your kids? No. Because I mean putting the word that I wouldn't family.
Oh yeah, on that side, if you're referencing like
Yeah.
on that side, yeah. No, they never even knew him. They never met him. My grandfather never met them. Everybody eventually met them as they got older after my grandfather died, but up until that point, they had never met any of my kids. Yeah, you know what? What's funny because, my wife's mom and parents at the time, they are so awesome. We were always spending their family was very close. So, we were always over there, so my kids really never even questioned the other side, like, "Dad, why don't we go over to your family?" It was
Yeah.
always they had enough love where we were with her family, which they were awesome. So, yeah, they never questioned it. They knew about it, I think, because we had shared it, or maybe I'd shared it, or they'd heard us talk about it, but they never questioned it or come to me about it. So, yeah, they had so much love coming from her side of the family, which worked out really great.
Oh, you
Was
guys met?
she
Go ahead.
sorry,
No,
was
go.
she Baptist as well?
No, no, my wife, no, she went to a church here was more Pentecostal.
Let's go. Let's go.
He was Pentecostal, which, I mean, neither of us really went to church a lot when we got married, but I had known Christ before. I had been born again at 20, so I had known Jesus and had been born again, so I knew we really needed to be in church somewhere. So we started like, "Hey, where can we go to church?" "Well, let's go to, where your mom goes," which was a more of a larger Pentecostal church, so we
What
went
was it
there.
called? Was it in Jacksonville?
Yeah, Harvest Dome is I guess they're still around, I don't know. So, but yeah,
Amen.
Pastor Washington, which is great, but you know what, God, the way just the way he works everything, looking back over everything now, that whole the whole process, it just God gets you from step to step to step. There is no you never get to a place where you finally arrived. It's just you look back and think, now I see why I went from here to here and what he did for me here, and then what he did for me when he moved us here. But when you're going through that process, you always look at it. I think I tend to. I know, like, okay, this is where Lord, where's the place I'm supposed to be? Where are we supposed to be? So he moves you here. Oh, this is it, but it's really not. Then you look back and it's really just a part of the step by step process.
That you had to get through a Pentecostal church to where the Lord wanted you. Makes sense.
Um, so you guys get married. You have 5 kids.
Yeah, 5 kids altogether, yeah.
House and spending a lot of time with our side of the family.
Yeah.
How do things progress over the next?
Oh, man, I mean, it was good. I mean, when you're raising kids, having a blended family is hard.
What way?
I You're dealing with because you're not dealing with just your family anymore. You're dealing with you have these kids from over here, and you have this kid from over here, and you have yours together, and then, especially when you have kids that you bring in that don't live with you, and then then you have well, our kids that we had together live with us, but then the other kids came over and they didn't live. So, so you always have that dynamic of, I won't say sibling rivalry. They always got along, but just that, you have to manage all that. You feel like as a parent, you're always managing that, managing how the kids, make sure that they feel loved. And that's one thing my wife was just amazing at. Still is amazing at. She was amazing at. I've never seen a woman that has loved kids that were not her. She did. I've never seen like anyone do it like that. They talk about stepchildren and how step parents treat stepchildren. There was never that terminology in our house because she treated them like, made room for them. There wasn't, well, when they get here, they can just have this. It was, let's make sure everyone has a place and everyone feels like they're part of this family. Yeah, she is amazing with
So that at least lit that conflict that something happened, blended family.
Yeah.
So made life easy.
I wouldn't say easy. I mean, there's still baby mama drama and stuff like that, and all that. On my side, so yeah, there was always that, and not always, but there was that. You always get some of that in a blended family, especially when other parents are around. But it wasn't a lot. It was a ton, but there were some complications here and there with other babies' mamas and definitely was not easy, but she made it easy. My wife, she always worked with to make sure that.
You talking to
Well, so yeah, I look back at my marriage and how everything went, and it's easy to look at everything when you look at it from the past because you can kind of see how everything went and what you did and everything that you went through and how you handled things. It's funny because, or not funny, but the way what we're learning now at church with Pastor Joby and how we always think as men we're crushing it. We think that we're just doing one or two things that I'm good. I'm doing really, really good, man. I have a family. Look at this. I'm gonna be the man. And you know what? But the problem is what I look back now and see is that problem was I always in the way I looked at it as being a father, um, and a husband was that I had to carry everything. It's like, hey, you're the head of the family. The buck stops with you, which in a sense we are responsible. Not always to blame, but we are responsible. But we're responsible for everything that goes in that house. So I felt responsible, but I didn't have an outlet for it. So I felt like that means I take everything on me. And if there's a problem, I need to fix it and I need to solve it. And if I have a problem with anything that goes on, then they don't need to know about it. I don't need to share it with them because I'm the one that they should be coming to. I don't go to them or even my wife. I'm supposed to take her burdens on and take everything on from her, and that's how it works. So I shut everything out of my life that gave me an outlet that I should have been using to give me an outlet to go to somebody like what we have now, like what we're like the men's group, the discipleship groups didn't have any of that. Even guys to hang around because I know it's harder for guys to do that, because I know like women, they can go anywhere and meet somebody and within 5 minutes, they're all best friends. But men, it's just different. So I just didn't have any friends. I had no one to go to. But that was a lot by choice too, because I felt like, hey, my family is everything I need. This is all I need. I don't need to do anything else. And you know what? I'll take care. Any problems that I have, I will deal with. And that that permeated my life. And now looking back, I see where that was really the start of where I really started falling, really started getting angry. Felt like I wasn't getting when I felt like I wasn't getting what I wanted, as maybe sometimes it does happen in marriages, when you don't communicate, you're busy raising kids. When I felt like I didn't get what I wanted, it was more along the lines of me bottling everything up, going into a corner and holding it in. And that was what I did. I didn't have an outlet for it. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I just felt like that was my responsibility and I had to deal with it. And however, I knew how to deal with it, which I didn't. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to talk to my wife. I didn't know how to go to her and say, hey, here's a problem I'm having. I just thought it's my responsibility. I need to bury this and I need to deal with it. And if there's a problem, then it's probably my fault because I'm the guy that's responsible.
What start to feel that way?
Probably, probably around 17, 18 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
Yeah. We were married.
For all those years,
Yeah. And well, I think everything happens. I think as a man, I think a lot of it happens. Everything happens gradually. When the kids are little, you're busy raising your family and you're raising your kids and you're going to the football games and you're going to the track meets and you're going to my daughter did dance and going to dance things and so you're really burying it all and as I look back covering it all up with everything else. Yeah, with business. And so you feel like, hey, everything's good because look at what we're doing. And I love my wife. I cared. I love my family, wanted to be a part of them. But as all what I look back now and realize is that all of that was just all of the stuff that I didn't know how to deal with. I just felt like it's all my fault. If this isn't happening, then it's my fault somehow. Then I need to learn how to deal with it instead of learning how to communicate with my spouse.
Said that not only with your children, but imagine, say, she comes to you, told everything because you feel responsible. Can you see in retrospect how that was affecting your marriage? And can
Yeah, I think neither one of us, to be honest with you, I don't think either one of us really knew how to communicate with each other. I think a lot comes from how you were raised, and my mom and dad were divorced at an early age. So I don't remember my dad ever being in the house. I saw him every other weekend. So it was just my mom and I. Um, so yeah, and she didn't have the ability to communicate with me. I didn't know how to communicate with her. I didn't know how to lead her as a man, to lead her into communicating and to saying, hey, baby, here's let's talk about this. And I feel like it's our responsibility. It is our responsibility to lead our wives into that. Because with my wife too, at the time, what I didn't know or I knew about, but looking back, I didn't know how much it had deeply affected her, was that she had there was a lot of family issues on her side with her mom and dad, and I don't want to speak, deeply about that. But so she had a lot of insecurities, that she brought into the marriage, and it was me. I felt like it was like, hey, then you need to deal with that. I'll deal with. I'm going to provide the house. I'll provide everything. I have a job. Take care of the kids. I'll be there for them. But you have to deal with that. I didn't know how to go to her and lead her out of that, make her feel comfortable. I'd heard teaching on it, even at a church we went to one time. And so it's like, you hear it and you think, man, Lord, I really need to do things differently. But then you think, but I just don't know how.
Where do you think that came from? Perspective? You did the deep with it. You carry the whole burden by yourself. You just have. Where
Yeah, that's a good question too. I don't know if it came from anything, as I think it came more from me, just to go ahead and we'll come backwards.
was you?
I, we had gone to counseling one time and they said, hey, write down on this rock where you feel like it. I can't remember. I'm going to mess up what they asked,
Sure.
but it was something about your parents, the feeling you got. And I remember in one word, and I remember my word I wrote on the rock was abandonment. And you're supposed to throw that rock away, and I never did. I always kept it in my truck with me. And I look back now and I think about that, how, in my opinion, I think about how I didn't have and I think that abandonment came from, apart from my dad's side, because regardless, when my grandfather died, man, it was sad because I loved my grandfather. When I was a kid, he was the one that showed me how to change the oil or change a tire or something like that. He was the one that showed me all of that. I didn't understand all of the other stuff that he had an issue with, that was rooted in him from where he was raised in his past. But I look back now and I think, man, I didn't have anyone. I was never shown, and my dad wasn't living in the house. He had gotten remarried, and I saw him every other weekend, and and of course that's never enough for a young man, for any kid, to spend that little bit of time with their parent. But I look back now and I think, you know what? I feel like that's where the abandonment came from. So I never knew how to have an outlet. I was never shown I never saw communication modeled. I never saw it modeled in my life between a man and a woman. So I think a lot of that came from that, because I think I just didn't know how to communicate, because I never saw it modeled in front of me between husband and a wife, or a father and a mother, or anything like that.
I thought it was burden upon your shoulders, but I would have thought most men who don't understand what a godly relationship is like would have on it not being. I mean, or not being their
Right.
burden to carry. I think it's really interesting.
Well, I don't know. I think sometimes what we do is, I think, to overcorrect in our lives, I knew enough to know that I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to love my family. And that's really important to note now for further on in this conversation that I wanted to love my family. I wanted to be the best husband, the best father. So I swung. I think what we do a lot of times as men, maybe as anyone, we overcorrect everything. We take a pendulum on one side where we didn't get something and we try to swing it all the way over. And so I was like, I'm going to take care of everything. I didn't see that modeled and I didn't see how a man's supposed to be, but I know that a man is supposed to take care of everything and I'm going to take care of it.
So you didn't get a good example. The example sounds like that you assumed was probably an extreme version of what you didn't have, and
Yeah.
you didn't have an example.
Yeah. And when you don't, that's why, and we get that teaching now, right? From where we are,
Sure.
is that, when you don't have a man in place, and just everything, chaos. Just a pastor used to say, wisdom violated is chaos created. And not having a man in the house, and not having a man there to lead and show and teach and guide, yeah, I think it creates a huge gap and a huge void, especially I think for girls and boys. For girls, it goes differently. For boys, I think it goes into that leadership on how to lead as a man. I think for girls, it goes into that having that love of a dad. So they go a different direction as they get older to find that love. But yeah, so I swung to that. I think I felt like and I never realized I had so much anger towards my dad for that. And that abandonment also came from, I felt like my dad left us, and even though he was there and he tried his best, but I could remember as a kid thinking, you left us to go be with that other family. And when he got married, she had a son, and so my dad adopted him. And I remember thinking, you adopted him? You left us just to go get somebody else, and then you actually adopted them? And I remember feeling like, yeah, I'll go over to your house and I'll be over there, but you know what? This is not my family. You can try to make this my family, but it is not my family. My mom is my
Which is funny because that's exactly that marriage.
Yeah, ironic, right? I look back at that and think the same thing. Very ironic. I did the same thing. Which I don't know. Maybe in a way I saw that, and also on the other side of that, swung to the other side and thought, well, my wife she brought in our son, which he calls me dad. His dad was never around. He was 1 year old when he came in, so he's known me his whole life as dad, and he is my son. But I brought him in and took care of him and loved him because that's what I felt that was my responsibility to do.
So, let me jump forward to our group. So we were in this group for how long now? Like 4 years now?
Has it been that long?
So yeah.
Gosh, I'm getting.
So during that time, like you were always one of the very outspoken guys. I mean, anybody's knows. And you were always very inspiring to. No, I'm honestly to a lot of the guys. Always upbeat, active. Hey, when I'm 68, I want to have a body like yours.
I'm not 68, dude.
So,
This
but
podcast is over. Thank you.
but there was something lingering and something that, and I'm just setting the stage because I think
Yeah.
it's important. As you mentioned,
Absolutely.
you didn't have that, that communication. You didn't have an out, and you finally seemed like you had in this group. You had an out. You had people you talk to, you identify with, you kind of buddies. And then one day, you talk about something that you need to confess. Can you take us, maybe if you need to go back a little bit and set the stage, but
Yeah.
take us through that experience and why that was so difficult?
Yeah, no. No, it's a great way to enter that actually. So yeah, I'd gotten into our men's group, our discipleship group, because in my marriage, as we went along, as a result of all of this burying and hiding, end up having an affair on my wife, full-fledged affair, everything involved in that affair. And looking back, and I'd gotten counseling afterwards, just to kind of, don't mean to jump around, but I had a counselor that said, "Why do you think that happened?" And I said, "Well, they said all the right things to me. I mean, things that I felt like I didn't hear in my marriage. Like Pastor Joby always talked about Hercules. the cheering on, this. I said, I never heard that and never got that. So, and I was always longing for that. And so since I didn't hear it, and I fell for the first person to tell me everything that I wanted to hear. And I thought, this is what I've been waiting on. This is it. And as I talked to the counselor, and he took me immediately, I think it's to Proverbs 4. And it says, the words of an adulterous woman drip are like honey to the ears. And it's like, and that's exactly what it was. As looking back at it now, as I went through that whole process of that, I could remember thinking, cannot believe that I'm doing this. Not believe. In a million years, I said I would never be in this position, and this would never happen. I want my family. I love my family. And it wasn't about not loving my family. It was about the selfishness of me needing to hear things that I wanted to hear. And looking back, what I didn't realize was that because of all the trauma my wife had experienced in her life, it was hard for her to give that away because of the trauma and insecurities that were created in her, made it hard for her to do that because it made her more vulnerable. So it made it hard for her to do that. So that was a struggle for her as we were going along in our marriage. And even to take it a step back early in the marriage, that's where all the kids and raising kids covers all of that up, But coming back, so that led me down this path of having this adulterous relationship that ultimately I thought was like, that's it. I'm done. And the enemy, it's funny how the enemy shows you all of this. But then as soon as everything was exposed and everything opened up, it's like the enemy draws the curtain and says, ha ha, but here's what it really is. And what you don't think about is how, while you're in that whole process, it's everybody will be fine. My kids will be okay. Everybody will be okay. You know what? We'll split this up. We'll do things this way. She can have the house. She can do that, but I'm going to be happy now. But you don't think about the other person's feelings. You don't think about what it does to your kids. You don't think and it absolutely destroyed. It's dropping a nuclear bomb in the middle of your family. You live this life and you think you're happy, but what you don't realize is everyone else is living their lives around you and looking at you as the leader and thinking everything is stable because we have dad and husband here and leading. And then you drop this bomb and they realize then they feel like their whole life was no longer stable. Everything is destroyed. Where do we go? Everyone asks the question, where do we go from here? What do we do? How do we handle it? And that's not a question kids can handle. And much less my wife absolutely destroyed her. That led me, as we were trying at that point.
Hang on. I'm so sorry.
No. Go ahead.
You're on fire and I'm like really digging in here, but I have so many questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So hold on a second. So just so I can get the timeline right, because I joined the group obviously later.
Right.
You're
Have you never heard
You're
this?
still
So I've never heard this story.
You weren't there.
I was not there. I'm still young. So I wasn't there. But is it that you confessed it had happened or that it was happening while you were going to group?
No. So it had already come out, gotten exposed
Before you started?
before I came to group.
Got it.
The bomb had been dropped. Everything had been destroyed, exploded. And as her and I were talking, to her credit, she was even like, hey, if we're even going to try to work this out, you need to, number one, go to church. Because we hadn't gone that much. Was she? Now we were going periodically. As you raise a family, it's kind of like raising your family becomes number one. And, hey, we'll squeeze in church over here. We need to go to church. You know that because you're a Christian and you need to be there. And we knew enough to know we needed to be there. And there was a time we did go faithfully at another church here in town for a long time when our kids were little. But it wasn't until after when we left there and then everything got sporadic.
Yeah.
When everything really, which shows you how the enemy works as you look back. While we were there, we were getting what we needed. But then when you fall away from that, being where you need to be and where you're supposed to be, that's when things you could see it, the cracks start happening and you have no outlet for it because you've gotten rid of your outlet because you feel like, as Pastor Joby would say, I got this. And so that outlet, so you don't have that outlet anymore because you feel like I got this and I'll create my own outlet. I am my own outlet and I will handle it. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're married for many years.
Right.
At this point, hindsight, you kind of can tell the way that you're talking about it, tell what was going, things that were wrong. I'm assuming that they didn't have big red lights going off as being super wrong back then, right? So if if someone right out there feeling the way that you're feeling or you felt when you're married before getting to the point of cheating on your wife, right? And what to tell me what you would tell that individual or even just about the moments that lead up to making this, what it looked like, what she looked like, what she represented, right? Because I'm sure it wasn't like 0 to 100.
No, I don't think the devil never works 0 to 100. Yeah, everything gets introduced little by little. I heard a pastor say years and years ago when I first got saved, he said, when you backslide, you first backslide, it never happens all at once. You first backslide in your heart before you ever even leave your church. And you start backslide a little bit. The enemy takes you little by little, little by little. And honestly, when you're in the middle of something like that as a guy or anyone that's in the middle of it, I was asking myself, I just can't believe I'm doing this. But then you start saying, well, but you know what? No, I can end this whenever I want. I can handle this. You know what? I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. I'll get rid of it. I'll handle it. But you never can. That's the lie that the enemy tells you. You got this. You can handle it, and I can get rid of it whenever I want to, and I can stop this because I knew it was a place I shouldn't be in. And I knew it was a place I should not be in, anything I should not be involved in. I knew that
How'd you know?
just because of, as a Christian, I think as a, being for real saved, and you know that it's something that you do not need to be involved in when you're a married man, and you know that, hey, committing adultery is wrong, but you reason it out by
I'm
saying,
sorry. I guess I mean more like when it started. Did you? I mean, as soon as it began, as soon as her words started to feel like honey, did you know it was wrong immediately?
uh, yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
knew it was wrong. I knew it was wrong, but when you're, when you're hearing that, it's like, but Lord,
It's so good.
this is what I want. This must be real. I know this is not. I know this has to be wrong because you say it is, but this must be real because this is what feels good. And this is how it makes me feel good. It's what I've never heard before, or I haven't heard a lot of at all. Now I have somebody that's finally seeing me who I am and seeing me. And so you follow that and you follow that down and think, that it's wrong, but this is fulfilling something in me. I mean, that's when you start reasoning it out. That's when you start rationalizing it and saying, yeah, but this is what I deserve. I deserve to have this. This is what I need. You know what? So this is what I should have.
You just kind of put it like you were talking to God about it. Were you talking to God about it back then?
No, not at all,
Okay.
man. Man,
You were about to go through a whole new
no,
turtle.
no, you don't. Yeah, no, no, I wasn't talking to the Lord about it at all. It was more, for me anyway, it was more of along the lines of, this is going to sound crazy to say, but it's along the lines of, I don't want God to know anything about this. But he does. But in your head, and that's the deceptive part of it that the enemy tells you. You believe anything. If you start following down that path, I think the enemy starts opening doors and telling you any kind of lies. You're living in his world now, and now everything becomes real that's not real. You know what I mean?
So you go through that, the bomb explodes in the middle of your family. What does time that look like? I mean, there's some obvious part, but just
Yeah. A good question. And this brings me back to what you were asking about the men's group, when she had even considered saying, "Hey, let's if we're going to work this out, You need to go to church. You need to get counseling, and you need to get around some other men. I was like, "Hey, absolutely done." See, it's funny because when you're in the middle of it, it's everything you want. But then when it gets exposed, all that goes away, because the enemy's already gotten you to where he wants you to be. Now he's destroyed your family. Now it's like, "Ha ha, none of that was real." So now you're like, "Wait a second. This is what it really does." It's like the Wizard of Oz. They're pulling that curtain back and saying, "Hey, look, this is what's really behind the curtain." And it was just nothing but destruction. So at that time, I was like, "Yes, whatever I can do, whatever we need to do, I'll do it." So I went and got counseling, went to church, went
Hang on. How'd you get caught? I'm
how
sorry.
That's okay. One night I was decided to take a chance and FaceTime the girl while my wife was asleep and
How
went
long was this going on for?
probably just a few months.
Okay.
Yeah. But decided to do that and make a call and thought my wife was asleep and I was outside thinking I was getting away with it and my wife walks up while I'm on FaceTime with another woman and sees it and I hang up immediately and that's when I knew that was it.
It's almost like you were desperate to.
Let me tell you something, man. When you're in that and you know it's wrong, you want to get caught. You want, and part of me wanted any way out of that. There's part of you that says, I want just some way out of this. And it's almost like a relief. When you get caught, it's like, okay, God, this is terrible, but at least it's out.
It's funny because you talked earlier that you have that perspective that you can control this at any. But
Right?
at what point did you feel I don't have this? And because now you're talking almost like if you were trapped in.
Yeah, I think that's when you feel like you don't have it anymore. I don't even think you realize you don't have it anymore because now because you do get to a point where you're like, I have no idea what to do. I'm so deep into this. I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know what to do. So yeah, you have no idea how to get out of it. But so all that I got this, I got this, I got this. Now now it's almost like you've walked into a cell and the door just closed behind you and locked and you're like, okay, this has gone way too far, but I'm in it now. So how do I get out of this? And there's a part of you. I don't know if this happens for every guy or everybody that's in it. Maybe it doesn't, but I think there's a part of you that says, "S- any way out of this. If I got to get caught, let me get caught." And I can remember thinking that, like, just let me get caught. If that's just let me get out of this.
Pursue the girl, or did she?
I think it was equal. It was mutual. It was a workplace thing. So it started at work because we
No, I
worked
mean
together.
like. Alright,
Probably me.
okay.
I mean, probably
Right.
flirting, you know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
Sure.
And then the flirting came back and was like, "Hey, wow, somebody cares," And so because I
These
think,
lines work.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So you think because you're always, you're reaching out when you're in a spot where you think you're not getting something, there's a part of you that's around there searching wherever you're going to get it from.
So, but and just to kind of tie things together, you beginning that you were the one choosing, who weren't you were taking all the pressure on yourself. I'll handle it. Then at the same time, you were telling your wife, you need to handle this. So it's almost like you were taking everything, distracting yourself with everything that you could control, not to face the things that were difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, the hard things, the work, the
Yeah.
pressure, that's easy for us. It is that emotional thing where we don't know how that's gonna react, especially when we become vulnerable.
I didn't know how to handle. Yeah, it's a very good point because I did not. I ran from those things. I didn't know how to handle her insecurities other than to be angry as to why she couldn't trust me. And this was before everything happened because she had all these insecurities from her past. So she had these doubts, even though nothing had ever happened at that time. But I didn't know how to handle that. Even when I saw those cracks in her, I didn't understand my responsibility to help her. I just thought, wait a second, why is she thinking like that about me? I've never done anything. She needs to get this together as a wife. She needs to learn how to handle this stuff. But I didn't want to, but there was part of me, to your point, I didn't know how to confront that or deal with it. Yeah. And I would run from that. I mean, everything else, dealing with my kids, being a part of their track meets and coaching and everything, yes. But having to run and talk to my wife to deal with those things, I didn't know how to do. And I ran from that.
So despite her insecurities, do you feel like as a husband you were acting like, but you were doing what you needed to do to be secure? Like it was completely unwarranted?
At the time, yeah, at the time, because I hadn't had an affair all those years, and I was totally dedicated and loved my family, and and
You pursued her?
yeah, and I want well, no, not like we know now, not like like I'm learning
Oh, I
now
see.
through our ministry and our as a
Yeah.
man to pursue her. I did do things to try to do that, but I didn't deal with the most important parts,
Sure.
and I didn't know how to deal with the most important parts. And honestly, the biggest part for me was learning how to sit down at night and say, "Hey, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about this. I want to help you through this." I just felt like, "Hey, you're the wife. You're supposed to. You're an adult, and you're the wife, and you know what you need to do as your role towards me, and that's what I just need you to do. And that's how you need to handle this." And that's what I thought. That's what I felt, and those were my thoughts. I never said that to her out loud, but that's the way I treated her and treated everything as, she needs to handle this. She needs to do that. Why is she thinking this about me? I've never cheated on her at that time. I've never done any of this. Why does she have all these doubts about me? But it came from her past and her insecurities that I didn't know how to love and deal with as her husband.
And you weren't taking away those things.
No, not at all.
Alright.
Oh, go.
So you I feel like you described how she caught you, and I can vividly you turn, you know you're caught. At some point, you look at her. What do you see?
Yeah. I was just like, yeah, it was just the hurt and the pain. When you see that in somebody you love and you care about, it's just,
So she went right to being hurt, didn't
oh,
swing past angry.
oh yeah. I mean, there are phases. I mean, I couldn't begin to talk about the phases you go through on that side,
No,
but
that night.
oh yeah, it was, yeah, because my kids were there, my daughter was there. Um, yeah, it was,
I mean, she was at night. She was awake. Your daughter was awake.
yeah, they woke up because then obviously everything comes out right then. And my daughter got up and what's going on? Yeah, I can remember my wife being in shock. And then
How old was your daughter? Sorry,
I don't
you're
remember.
painting such a vivid picture. I'm just trying to fill the
I don't know,
gaps.
high school, I guess.
Okay,
I'm thinking, yeah,
old
yeah.
enough to.
Yeah, maybe out of high school. Yeah, old enough to understand.
Understand.
Yeah, my kids were all high school age or older.
Yeah. So, who you're told to accept willingly because you want everything. Church, getting counseling, start going into a group.
Yeah.
Did that change you? Like in what way? I mean, this now you're in a path where you're trying to save something that you destroyed. How does that change?
Uh, gosh, well, then now that everything's out in the open, now you're trying to now you're just on your back looking up, just like, man, I think it's a lot of shock too. You're just thinking, I never, and this is not taking anything away from her because she says the same thing. But you think, never thought I would be in a million years. I never thought I would be in this position, losing my family. Um, so went to church 1122. Because ironically enough, when we were married, we had visited 1122, but never stuck or stayed. But I knew that's where I would want to be. Went to 1122, started going. Um, I just one time when they had an altar call, I remember I was like, I need to get this out. So I went down and just to whoever was down there praying, like, I just got to tell you, this is what I've done. I just need prayer. I need help. This is what I've done. I had an affair with my wife. I've cheated on her, and I just need to confess this out. And guy prayed with me. I never forget down there, prayed with me. And that's why I was like, you know what, I'm staying at 1122. So I did that. And then was getting counseling through a Christian counselor. Great, great guy. Loved him. Helped me out tremendously. That helped. But I think the turning point for me was coming to our men's group.
Why's that?
Man, I tell you, just being a man, never having men around you that were godly men, that love God, that were vulnerable, never having that, you don't know what to expect. And so come into something like that and you think, this is what I need. This is where I need to be. But coming into our men's group and before I let everything out, I was there for a while before. I was that long?
So, which is important.
Did you? Well, like you. So I'm unpacking it. Right. You got caught in something that, in and of yourself, right, from a
Yeah.
selfish perspective, were enjoying part of it, even though you had wanted to be caught. Right. You were persisting in doing it, and you get caught, and now you have exposed. Don't have in marriage the honey,
Right.
right? And however, you love your wife and your children. Right? So now she finds out you break her heart. Automatically go into realization of what this was and wanting to save it, or was part of you didn't want it? Like, where was your
Yeah, that's
heart?
a very, very good question. Yeah, I part of you, yeah, you want to save it because you want your family. But then there is still that part of you that still feels like, you know what? Yeah, but this was really good over here.
Right.
So there's a part of you that wants to hang on and stay in it and dabble in it and stay there. So it took time. It took time for me to really kind of cut it all off. It was a progression of finally just cutting it all off and saying, that's it. I'm done with this. I can't be involved in this.
So, did
So
you,
did all right, go ahead.
when you got caught, did you end that relationship?
No,
Right.
not immediately. And I say no, not immediately, because then there was a part of me that was after I got caught that, or a little bit, where I felt like, you know what? That's fine. I'll go over here. I'll make this work. And, but in the back of my head, I could remember, my dad sharing at one time saying, um, that when he married my stepmother, that he kind of did the same thing. Like he wanted to fix it with my mom at one time, but then said, no, I just better make this work. And so I just thought, you know what? But I was like, well, okay, well, that's fine. We'll split up the house. We'll split up everything. This was my initial. I wanted my family, but you're right. Initially, it was more of, hey, but I can make this over here work because this is what I'd always wanted anyway. But stuff like that, it never works out. It just, you can't, number one, you can't build a foundation of something that's going to be strong when you're building on something as rocky as an affair to make it work. You can't have in my opinion, you can't have an affair and then say, okay, now I'm going to build a solid marriage over here. It just doesn't work that way. I feel like it doesn't work that. There may be people that have gone through something different. I don't know. But the way I've seen it, I don't, as a Christian, and because I knew, I needed God in whatever I did because I knew what I'd done was wrong. And, but I knew I couldn't have it in that. So it was really a choice. You really have a choice. You either keep following your flesh and keep following this feels good, because they're going to keep making me feel good like a drug, or you can abandon it and say, God, I got to do things your way. And God is not going to give you the person of your dreams through an affair as you destroy everything else, destroy the covenant that you made originally. It just doesn't work that way. But there was that part of me that still was like, no, but you know what? That's okay. I can still that's okay because this person cares about me. This person, they care and they love me. And so that's going to, this is what I'll make it. This is what I'll make my people. But as you move along and as I was going, which I didn't really realize at the time, I was also playing the other side of wanting to go to church and do that. And as I started going to church because I knew that part of me, I needed that. But as you go to church, God just started little by little just grabbing hold of me, and I knew it's like, there's no way I can make this work with this. There's no way. I knew I couldn't. I knew I didn't want to because I knew God would never be in the middle of any kind of that relationship.
Was your ex-wife aware that this struggle that you perception that you were going to church?
Yeah, no, she wasn't, I don't think she was aware that that was the perception. She may have had an idea, but I don't think she was not aware that was what was going on exactly. Because I wasn't pursuing my wife at all then at that point, immediately after it happened.
Yeah.
I was almost willingly ready to walk away because I thought this other person had what I needed. And then, but gradually, as things go along, you start realizing, hey, this isn't it. This isn't the way things work, especially when you're trying to come back to where God wants you.
What would you so like when I hear stories like this, right? Like my when this is a time where I'm talking. But that said, what would you say now about the strength of that perception of the honey, whatever it was that had you make the decision against fears of losing a marriage? Like to me, I think about it like not like the house, the lawyers, the litigation, the heartbreak, the child, like, but the enemy makes it feel worth it. Am I saying that right? Like,
Oh
you know
yeah,
what I'm trying to get at?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's exactly the way the enemy makes it feel. I mean, there's a reason why it's so prevalent in society, why people do that. And you look at
Yeah.
when you're solid, and you look at other relationships where it's happened, and you think, how could they ever do something like that? Why would they ever leave her or him? And they had a good life. Look at the house. Look at everything they had. Why would they do that? That's ridiculous. It's silly until the enemy has you in that, and it's it's whatever it is that you're needing, and that's what that person said to me was what I was needing to hear. Because I didn't hear all of that Hercules in my marriage because because of her insecurities, and this isn't putting any blame on her at all. But I did, and so I fell for the first line I heard that gave me it's the only thing I compare it to. I've never done drugs like that, but I can only compare it to that must be what it feels to get that, like, wow, this feels good. So you're willing to abandon everything, and you cover all the stuff you knew before that you knew would happen, the destruction, all of that you've seen other people go through. You're willing to rationalize and convince yourself that's not going to happen to me. And it's fine because I'll make sure this and that, and I'll take care of them. And I was rationalizing that, you know what? She can have the house. I'll make sure she has this. I want to make sure she's taken care of.
Good
Here,
guy.
yeah. So I'm making myself out in my heart to be the good guy because I'm going to make sure she's okay. That's how ridiculous you sound when you're in the middle of something like that. As anyone that would listen to this now and think that's ridiculous. It is, but when you're in it, it's as ridiculous as watching somebody stick a needle in their arm and their life fall apart. And you think, why would they keep doing that? They're living on the street. Why they've lost everything. Why are they continuing to do that to their life? Because and to them, it's that narrow vision of that one high of, but this feels.
Yeah, it's naive, man. I'm guilty of that. Looking at it from the outside in, like that's great. Like me and my wife were even talking about that this week. That we like discussing that topic. Part of it is like, man, work to put it back together, but not even realize like you're not thinking about putting it back together, bro.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? That's you know what
No.
I mean? Wow.
No. And what's funny is the hypocrisy that I went through was I was going to church, I was doing everything she wanted because and I heard I can't remember, it was something, maybe Pastor Joby, I'm going to misquote from someone, or maybe it was another podcast or something. I don't remember. It was a Christian or a pastor. And you know what, that during a counseling session, they had one of the spouses had an affair, and they asked them why, or they were talking about it. And they said, I think it was the woman that had it. And she said something to the effect of, I love my husband, but everything I got, I just I just wanted it from. And I could tell you that's a very, very real feeling because there were plenty of times where I looked and I would tell her, which was so foreign because she would look at me like, you're nuts. I would say, you don't understand. I love you, but everything I got, I just wanted it from you. I just wanted you to be that because I loved you. That's what I wanted you to be doing. So I think a lot of it is not, it gets, I think a lot of it is people that are seeking something they're not getting, but maybe they want it from their spouse and they feel like their perception is they're not getting it. So they find it elsewhere and go outside of what that covenant when that's not what God calls us to do at all, especially as a man. And I wish I would have known how to dealt with it at that time. If I would have had then what I have now, especially with our group, our guys,
Yeah.
discipleship group, I would have definitely, um, all of this could have been averted.
Let me go back to that situation that I brought her. So you were with the group for a while, and you finally one day you come in very excessive, um, and which as you're talking, it makes sense.
Exhausted.
Sorry.
Why? 'Cause-
Sorry, you come in hyperventilating. Um, and his dad is also big. Anyway,
That's
So-
more than 3 syllables.
so okay, there you go.
Having
You're
not
breathing
been
heavy.
there, the image I have of you walking into the
Hyperventilate.
So
It wasn't quite that way,
no,
but close.
actually, you should have seen yourself. So you were breathing heavy. You're telling us you need to talk to us. Really something difficult for you. So although you've been in this group for a while, um, you had a secret. It was nothing that happened in the moment. But why did you feel that you had to hide that from the group that moment for that many years?
Yeah, that's a good point. Just to let you know how it led up to that too, and I'll answer that, is I knew I had to tell somebody at the time I'd been in the group, and I was enjoying being there, but I was enjoying being there and getting what I knew I needed from God. And no, I still, I felt good. I loved being around the guys, but I knew I needed to share, and I needed to share with somebody. And I was trying to pick out who I could share it with, and it was Brian. Did I say his name? Brian.
You have to say his last name, but that's
Oh,
all right.
sorry. Brian. And so I went to him. I was like, hey, man, can we have some coffee? Hey, you know how Brian is. Like,
Of course.
right now.
Go.
So we had coffee, and I said, man, I got to share something with you. And then I told him everything. He listened to everything, and he said,
Got up and walked away.
you're out.
Go to
That's why he's been in Georgia. So he said, and we talked for a while about it, but we got around to the point of, I was like, I just need to tell somebody. I said, and I want to tell the guys. I said, but just don't know how. And he said, you need to. I said, I don't know. I said, I need to wait until the right people are there. Because there was only a handful of us that were there. There's that handful that is there just all the time. And then there's others that trickle in and out and trickle in and out. I thought, nah, I got to wait till the right people are there. And the ones that I really know and I could trust. But if there are strangers there, I really don't want to share it because I don't want to share with them. Plus, I'd always felt like up until that point, I felt like I was in a group of guys, all these guys, and like where we are, they're all successful. They have families. They're married, have kids. I've just destroyed my marriage of 24 years, and they're all talking about their wives and families and how they're going to do this and that, and I don't belong. I can't. But I knew I loved being in the group, and that is a credit to, I will say, to Alex, because I had tried several groups, and I had come there because he was the only one to actually reach out and call me and to talk to me directly when I joined the group. And one of the things I remember he said to me is like, listen, man, you're going to hear, and he said this in our group, you're going to hear me talk about how I mess up with my kids and I mess up with my family. And I thought, and that's okay. I need to be, at least that's a start. I'm being around somebody that's real and that I know messed up. And, so that's why I came to the group. But when I got there, I was like, man, these guys are successful. These guys have it all together. And I am messed up. I mean, just freshly out of this, just totally messed up. So I held it in, just kind of buried it for a while and just got out of the
How
group.
many people have known at this point? Counseling. Counselor.
Yeah, counselor,
That's
and
it.
that's it. Yeah, so counselor, that's it. And then at that point, had told Brian, and Brian was like, "Hey," and to his credit, he never like obviously he never pushed it in the group or anything, or he would never be like and the group kind of nudged me or anything like that. He just sat there and just waited, and we would talk, and every once in a while he'd be like, "Hey, man, need to share." I will. Wait till the right people get there. So I kept waiting. I think it went on for a couple of months at least. And while I was just trying to wait. And this is the way God works, man, is that it was the night when everyone was there. Everyone was there. I think it was the biggest group that we've ever had. I think there was about 15 guys there. Usually we're having 7 or 8 or something like that. There were like 15 guys, including people I had never seen before. And I remember sitting there and I remember thinking, I just can't share this tonight. No way. And I remember sitting next to Luke, who was sitting next to me, and he was talking. I remember because I could remember it was like the Holy Spirit it's like you're on the edge of a cliff and somebody's pushing you and you're trying not to go off, but you're about to go off because it's just got to happen. And I remember sitting there and it was like turning on a faucet, like the Holy Spirit. There was a faucet and the Holy Spirit turned it on, and I was almost literally wanting to hold my mouth closed because it was like ready to come out and I needed to share it. But I was like, no, no way, I'm not doing it. In my head, this is how I'm rationalizing everything. And I'll never forget Luke was sharing something. What a great guy he is. Share because he would always share about his shortcomings and everything. And I thought, he's doing it. And that's when I was
So
like,
Luke is saying, what a great guy he is. Who is he?
no, he's
No, saying Luke's a great guy.
Luke's a great guy. And
Okay.
Luke's always talking about, his shortcomings and how. So yeah, so I'm thinking, okay, I need to say something, but no, I'm not doing it. But all the while, I could feel the faucet turning on, and I just picture this outdoor spigot like when you were a kid on the side of the house, and you
Yeah.
turn it on, and it just flows out. And I remember thinking, and that's when it came out, and I just said, I remember just saying, I gotta share something. I remember looking down the whole time, man, and I remember barely getting any of it out. It took me forever to get out the little bit I did because I was ready. I was breaking down. I mean, just tears coming, everything in front of all these guys. And I will tell you this, and I don't want to get choked up while I say this, but I can remember after I was finished, I remember looking up, and the first person I saw was Jonathan. And I remember seeing tears in Jonathan's eyes. And he said, man, Chris, forgive us for not creating an atmosphere where you felt like you could have shared this. And I had never heard that from anybody, especially a group of men, be able to do that and to share that. For Jonathan to say that, it was just like, oh my God. Part of me was just like, didn't you hear what I just said? And then I remember after sharing it afterwards, just standing around, laughing and joking like it was nothing. Not that it was nothing, but that it was like, hey,
You
dude,
were accepted.
this is no big deal. And then I remember seeing Brian walk up, and Brian walk up with his smirk. He's just,
This is popcorn away.
and he kind of looks at me and just shakes his like,
There's something really important. And part of why I wanted to bring that story is because you said something that day, remember, but it was to the effect that you're so ashamed because all of these guys, successful, have their life together, and you almost like God can't use you. You are discarded. You are a fake. And so many times, you go through struggles. That's what the enemy tells you. That's what you are. You are identified by the past. You are around here, a place where you're supposed to find this comfort, this hope, this iron sharp, and you fail. You never share that, and you carry that burden for so long because of what you have preconceived that already. How did that change you? You're being able to release that and bring that in open, and letting the light kind of cleanse that a little bit. Just walk us a little bit through what that felt like and how your life was.
Yeah, and a great question too. So, up until that point, I learned how to lie so well. I knew how to lie and try to put on the face that everyone needed to see. When I was a husband, as a father, I knew how to lie and cover it all up and cover all the issues up because I never wanted anyone to see me as a failure. I don't know where that comes from. I could only say I heard the other day on another podcast, which I know I could share. It's called the Resilient Show, the Chad Robish Show or something. He had a guy on there that was sharing, and he said something that resonated with me that I thought I didn't know anyone else felt like this. And he was a guy too that was giving his testimony, and he didn't give all the background. He had a much rougher childhood, but abandonment issues in his childhood, much different than mine. But he had shared with him on that podcast, he said, after he had destroyed his marriage in some kind of way, and I don't know, I couldn't give you all the details. Somehow that had happened. And he said, when I had a heart, I couldn't believe that anybody would love me. And I remember thinking, that's it. That's what I felt. I never could believe that anyone loved me. Even my own kids. I didn't believe that my own kids loved me. And even now, my wife then, and even especially now when we talk and I'll say something that may allude down that path, she will, to her credit, will say, Chris, your kids love you. You need to understand this. And then I didn't realize that that's the way I saw everything, was that I wasn't lovable because I had family that had abandoned me and left me. And even though I felt like I had stood up straight and said, that's okay because I'm going to love my family and that's never happening to me, all that was still there. And I learned how to cover all of that insecurity. I learned how to lie and cover that up so no one saw that. But at the root of it, I can never understand. I never believed that anyone could love me. And I didn't understand why. And I didn't understand why I felt that way, but I just didn't understand it. And I didn't think my kids loved me. I just thought, not even my kids even. I mean, they're my kids, so they respect me because I'm a dad, but all the stuff you see on the movies, and that you see and all the emotions with kids and their parents, is like, that wasn't me because my kids don't love me that way. And I felt that way. And I'm not saying they didn't. I'm saying that was my perception of everything, is that my heart was that I don't see how anyone could love me that way. So after that, though, to get to your question, after I shared it, I think that's when that progression started, that sanctification process of, okay, God, I can share this and people do care. People still do love you and these guys, and as I come to grow as close as we've gotten, I came to learn that, hey, these guys, I know they got my back. And I never had that. I never felt like I had that before. It's like, I got guys. I mean, in the back of my head and in my heart, a lot of times and I couldn't give anything specific, but I can remember just in our group of guys doing things for each other and thinking, why would they do that for me? Why would they even do that? Why would they offer to do this? Or if somebody say, hey, I'll help you with this. Why would they do that? Because, I'm the one that has always screwed up everybody's life. So it's easy to fall in that mode of So now I have to fix everything, take care of everything. Now, I'm the one that needs fixing, and but I need to fix this in me now. And so I got to handle this. So that's always still a little bit of that is still there. So there's that progression after I shared it was that, man, you can share something like that. And this thing really is real. This thing that God's doing, it is real. What God does in your life he removes that shame. And that was when I think I started first realizing that, man, the change that God is making in my life, he really does love me. He does want me. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't have got me around these group of guys. If he didn't, he wouldn't have had me here so I can share and I can grow. So yeah, he must really, I don't have to earn my way back, because you do get in the sense of, okay, God, I messed everybody's life up. So now I have to really earn my way back into your good graces. So it's easy to get in that mind.
I don't know what the group was like before I got there, right?
Not as good as it is.
Well, what I'm getting
Never.
at, I mean, just take up all the credit. I guess what I'm getting at is that when I got there, what I noticed very quick that this group men are like feeling vulnerable and share and be open. And I would say that your courage in sharing that with the sounds now like you're a major part of what cultivated this group of men, right? All willing to lay it down. And then also what what it done in my life is broken down barriers, right? Because like even if not at first, go to a group week after week, you guys talk about things, like some things that I'd be like, well, I will never say that out loud, like that was just, but that was my perspective and heart toward it, and systematically being broken down to the point of being able to share with you guys, like just wildest things that are going on or whatever, right? It takes men to do that first. Like it has to happen. And so thank you, man.
Well, I can't take all the credit. And there's a great group of guys, but yeah, I appreciate that. And it was because of the group, and it just shows you how God works, man. He
Yeah.
just gets you. He knows exactly where you need to be. He knows exactly what you need. Yeah, and we just that group, just us being together for so long. I mean, it really is the best group of guys. I mean, I heard a pastor say years ago about a church saying, "Hey, this is the best church in Jacksonville for those who are called to be here." And I say that about our guys. It's the best group to be in for those who are called to be in. And and that's what I feel. It really is. It's the best group. I couldn't do anything without it. And I share that with everyone I talk to, especially now, guys that I talk to, especially that if I start discipling them or talking to them, it's like, "Hey man, get into a men's group." That's the first thing I'm going to tell you. No matter whatever issues are going on, get into a men's group. You got to get into a disciple. That's the first thing I tell any guy that be around other men that can disciple you and that you can share with. And that's what we have. That's what I feel like I came into, and God opened the door for me into guys that I can be a part of and that accept me and can look at me and know everything I've done and still say, "Man, Chris, you're a part of this group, dude," or "You're a big part of this group." And I don't think I've ever felt that before in my life.
You're definitely loved, brother.
Appreciate it.
So let me go through this. Finally, some of the healing actually. How did that help with those broken relationships? That that makes.
Yeah.
How does that affect you?
Um, it's a progression. Didn't happen immediately. It still doesn't. It's not. It doesn't happen quickly. It's really really big. I don't even know if I can even quantify it in how it affected them, because really getting in the group was all for me. And it sounds selfish to say, but I feel like the Lord opened that door because he was like, this is what I need for you. Before we go anywhere else, we need to at least build a foundation. And being a part of a group of men like this is the foundation before I can even start trickling down, I think, to affecting your relationships with my kids and my family, which honestly, I think even now, it's just now starting to really happen and help me overcome a lot of those fears of talking to my kids or being the father that I can communicate, that can communicate with their kids. Because even then, I didn't communicate with my wife. I didn't know how to communicate with my kids either. I didn't know how to talk to them, and so now even coming to that point, it's hard even now. And I think I'm just getting to the point where I'm learning, hey, still, even though I'm not married anymore, and we're not all living in the house as this big happy family or this family, we are still a family, and God still holds me accountable to be there and still with that relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
No, she has not remarried. So yeah, so dealing with that, and so yeah, I feel like I'm just kind of starting to get into that because there was so much. I mean, as during this whole process of just God just dealing with me, man, I didn't realize, and it's funny to say, and we talk about it now through this whole thing at church and through the stand firm and act like men. We feel like we're crushing it, and there are times when I've talked to my ex-wife. We still talk now. We talk a lot, and she one thing she said to me one time was like, you felt like I didn't do this stuff. She's like, but you weren't the best husband either. And she was like,
Fucker.
yeah.
Takes two to tango.
It's like, wait, no, really? And like, no, wait, are you being serious right now? Yeah.
I better not be in your
So-
posture, dude.
It sounds like you guys are in a much better relationship, if you could say that. I mean, I know you're not,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you guys talk, you guys communicate, you guys encourage each other.
Yeah. Let me tell you, all to her credit, she is an amazing, amazing woman. All to her credit. I think the thing is, what we both did is when everything happened, neither one of us ran away from God. We both ran to him separately. She ran to God. I ran to God, even though it took me a little longer as being an idiot that I was after everything happened. But she ran to God to get healing, and we both did. So even now, she does a women's group um, through the church that really focuses on women who are going through the same thing she went through and are going through divorces, and she's doing an amazing job. And so we actually talk about now.
11:22?
Yeah.
Goes to 11:22 also?
She goes, yeah, she goes to 11:20. So she does that. So now we have that, and now even with the men's group now out at my house, there are times like when I started doing that, she would be the one I would call and be like, "Hey, you started yours like a year ago. What did you do about this?" And she would encourage me, and there were times when she started hers and I hadn't started mine, and she would still call me and say, "I think I'm going to shut it down. I don't think no one's coming." And I said, no, you just wait, just hold on. God's going to move through it. I know it. Which is very ironic because we would talk about that stuff like that it was almost in an odd way because I'm very aware, you're very conscious that everything that she's dealing with and is because of me. So I'm encouraging her to continue to do it as if I'm a third party on the outside, but I'm the one that caused it all to happen, which is all to her credit. And
Hold on. I think it's absolutely to her credit, but you had not taken responsibility. You had not gone through what you're going through that process. Okay, to take some of that credit because you have re-fomented a relationship with her where you guys have that openness, where that shame is no longer covering. You're naked in front of each other. What I did, trying to change, and I'm cultivating a relationship with you. So I think if you were still trying to excuse, well, it happened because, see, it wasn't really my fault. You couldn't have that. I mean, she would never give you that opportunity. So it's also part of, your own um, actions that have led to that.
What did that night that shared shared with the men time? It was the first time you had an outlet,
Right.
like men of God,
My life. Yeah.
right? And so you lay that down. You share that with this. What did that feel like?
Oh gosh, it was relieving. It was the first step into knowing that, into realizing that I don't have to carry the shame. That it's that yeah, I did it. One thing that you don't ever get rid of the regret. Regret is there, but it's when I realized I didn't have to carry the shame. The shame was not something I had to carry around with me anymore. That I could say, hey, yeah, this is what I did, but through God's grace and everything He's doing in my life, man, I don't have to carry that. I can share that and know that I'm still accepted and loved because because as I said before, I was such a good liar and covering. I didn't want anybody to know like in my family when I was married. Part of my issue was I didn't want anybody to know I felt like it was very weak for anyone to know that I had any kind of deficiencies as a man and as a husband because that's not what I'm supposed to be. I'm the husband and these are my kids. I have a big responsibility. No one can know that I have any issues, and I had no one to pour that outlet on. So now it's okay for somebody to know, for the guys that I shared it with, for the men that God puts in your life, that it's okay that you can share that and you can tell someone that. And yeah, it'll feel shameful and you feel with the regret, but it's okay. And now it's okay for me. I can tell somebody if I'm talking to someone and they say, yes, I was married. Yeah. What happened? Well, yeah, man, I messed it up. I had an affair. And it's like, there's not this, at least not for me anyway.
Mhm.
So, but it's a great opportunity to be able to share the gospel.
What did she say when you told her that you did it with the?
I don't remember. I think I didn't share it with her directly, like, hey, guess what I did tonight? Because it was such a personal thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But eventually I did tell her in a conversation, not intending to tell her, but in a conversation her and I were having, I think at one time, and I was saying, yeah, because when I had to do this and I shared it with these guys, and I don't remember her giving any kind of reaction, but there was no conversation. There was really no conversation about it because I think that was really something, looking back, was that God was doing in me. And that was kind of a personal thing that He needed to do in me and through me and for me.
So what you mentioned earlier that she had um right after it had happened, the effect that if this is gonna work, then you get to counseling, church, blah, blah, blah. When did the idea of it working
And when she said, I'm going to file for divorce, when
Oh,
she
you
was
had
like,
okay, all right. So
yeah. So when she was like, I don't think, yeah, I got to move. I think she had gotten counsel. I don't remember that it was best for her to move on and put a period on the end of this. Which is understandable. Which, I was just like, I mean, who am I to complain and say, well, how dare you? No, I understand. I get it. And you start fighting from this position of, okay, Lord, what do you have next? So it's, you are sovereign. You had a plan for this. You knew what was going to happen. So whatever comes next is all up to you and for you. And that's what I'm realizing now is that, man, I don't know, to be honest with you. And I want to say this in the right way. And I know you guys would understand it, but God is sovereign. He knows everything and He already has a plan for it to get you there. It may not be, He may have this straight path like this, but we get off like this. But He's already made a plan for us to get back on that path. Now, it's going to be a little harder. It's going to be a little rougher. And there's some things I'm going to have to learn or we're going to have to learn. But I feel like I'm still on that of, man, I got some stuff uh, that God is just dealing with me on that He's like, there's some stuff I still got to clean up in you. And I feel like I see it all the time. I feel like just even the more we talk about it, the more I realize I was not this great guy. Even in the middle of stand firm and act like men, I was not the man I needed to be. I had no idea how to be a husband, and I definitely showed it that I didn't know how to be a husband. And so I'm learning all of that now, of as even through this series, like, okay, God, every week it's like, man, okay,
Not easy.
yeah,
That has been. I don't like this series. Like every day you're living there, it's like, man, I thought I was doing great.
I did too.
No.
I have some homework to do.
In my group the last night was, the one that me and my wife go to, the discipleship group, made the mistake of saying, "And I hope next year stand firm and act like women."
At which point every head turned to you.
Tell us how you really feel. Yeah.
So there's a something that I want to touch on because I think it shows part of your progress in for that sanctification. You mentioned that one of your daughters felt that you didn't love her. To that effect. You guys were strange for a while, and you shared that you were gonna have coffee with her one day, and you actually needed prayer. And I
Yeah.
think the result of that shows a lot of who you are now, where you've been. But can you tell us about that experience and how that changed you and changed your?
Yeah, yeah. And this goes. So when it all happened, um, I drug her in the middle of it all. Really, she was older. She's my oldest daughter, and so I drug her in the middle of it all. And when you're in the middle of that, and this is sad to say, and is a terrible thing that people do. When you're in the middle of all that, and you almost like you want allies. It's almost like you got to
Yeah.
get your allies. People who you think may defend you. And so after everything had come out, I had I had started sharing with her, and unintentionally kind of drug her into it. And and then all of a sudden, after that was years ago when it happened. And then all of a sudden, recently, I guess over the last year, she's become very distant. I didn't understand why. And she finally one day, when I had asked you guys, hey, pray for this because I'm going to meet with her, because we hadn't talked. I didn't understand it. She's almost like she had this anger, and I don't want to say hatred, maybe that's a strong word, but whatever it is toward me as a dad, to where even in some instances, talking to other people, she wouldn't even call me dad. She would call me Chris. And again, to my ex-wife credit, she would tell her, no, this is still your dad. You still call him dad. And so finally I said, hey, let's you and we need to go sit down. Let's have breakfast. And we did. And not divulging a lot of it, but she just kind of said, I felt thrown under the bus a lot by what you did and how you pulled me into it, and then did some other things and said some other things. And I don't remember everything exactly, which I really, if it's okay, I don't want to go into detail on that,
No, no,
everything
no,
she
absolutely.
shared. But it took sitting down with her and just looking at her and say, just please forgive me, because that was never my intention. In saying where I was at that time was not who I am now, but just asking her forgiveness, saying, I'm just sorry. And I had no idea that's the things that she was sharing with me, that it had made her feel in these different ways, where I had really hurt her as a dad. And, which is another thing. I mean, it's just, again, when you're in the middle of it, you see one thing, but then the destruction just branches out like veins to everybody and it's all these different areas that you don't know it's even touching. And it affects people's lives that are closest to you that you don't even realize that it's affecting, because all you're thinking about is your selfish. And that's what I told part of, in the sense that that's who I was then, and just asked her forgiveness. And there were some tears, and on both sides, and we're still working through it now. Still, but that was the feedback I got was, hey, it from other people from the family kind of said, hey, that really helped, really did a lot. There's a big difference. So yeah, it makes a difference to have to be able to go to your kids and do that and say that to them, And I've gone to my sons and said that, and my daughter, and just said, "Hey, forgive me." And to their credit, I mean, the relationship I have with them, I've seen guys who said, "Hey, their kids wouldn't even speak to them anymore." To them, to for them to still to look at me, and one of my boys I went to, and I asked him, I said, "I just want to say, ask you to forgive me for what I did to our family." And he was like, "Dad, I forgave you a lot." Oh, that meant a lot.
Yeah, man.
Um, Gone through a lot of conflict that God ordained. Part of what I hear, you've learned to accept your clearly without no strings of. How is that continuing things that through this you mentioned that, how do you see that God is bringing?
Oh man. Mm. How is he doing it? From just from where we are right now, just from the church I go to, and the teaching that we're getting, learning about his grace in my life, being able to dive into the word more. And one of the byproducts of everything that's happened now is that when you're when you're when you're alone in this, after everything's happened, and now, we're divorced, we both live in separate places, obviously. When you look up, you're just like, hey, the only place I have to turn, God, the only thing I can turn to is you. I only have you. You're all I have. Man, I feel like he's drawing me closer to him closer than I've ever been before, as far as just reading my word, studying, praying, building my relationship with him closer than I've ever had. And, which is really just amazing. And then one of the things I could say, I think I was going to share, is that to say this in the right way about God being sovereign, I don't know. And this is what's amazing. I don't know that where I am now with him could have happened any other way than for this to all happen. Not that he ordained an affair or anything like that, but that's what makes him so sovereign. He's like, hey man, I already know this is going to happen. So, and I know the changes that need to take place. So here's what we're going to do to get him back to where I need him with me. And I think that's all he wants. He just wants us. He just wants a relationship with you. And it's not as a group, but as an individual. He is a dad that just wants a relationship with his kid. And I don't think I could have ever gotten to the spot of what I'm learning now, of loving God the way I am, as close as I am, or getting to him and learning the things I am without all this happening. Meaning without her, if she would have said, you know what, yeah, let's try it. I don't know. I don't know that I may have taken it for granted, that I would have been like, hey, well, hey, look what I
It
did.
wasn't that bad.
And I still got to keep my marriage. I mean, but for God to be like, no, this is what needs to happen. But he does it all so he can bring us back to himself. And that is that is why he is so amazing. Among other things, but that he loves us that much to say, you know what, that's okay. I already have a plan for that. And when I talk to people now that go through stuff like that, it's like, hey man, he's not sitting in heaven. He didn't sit in heaven and saw this happen and say, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. I had no plan for this. What are we going to do? It's, it's like, no, I already got this taken care of. Here's how it's going to work. It's the, the pain that we put on ourselves. It's terrible. I mean, and there are many a night with terrible thoughts of not even wanting to be here anymore, for myself and for my ex-wife, or for my wife at the time. But it's just that, but God still knows, and he still knows how to get us where we need to be as a good dad. And so I feel like that progression is still coming. And I don't know that we ever arrive. And I don't think we should ever get to a place where we feel like we've arrived, because there's there are always things that we still need to learn and get better at, and especially through this stand firm and act like man, it hits me every week. It's like, man, I was terrible. I'm a terrible Lord. I got more fixing than I thought I
Mm.
needed to. It's
You're
just
not
too.
So, all right, brother. So, already been incredible, but I'm going to ask you a question and then maybe I'll ask you to pray.
Oh my god! Don't listen.
I'm sorry. It was Jonathan. No, in all seriousness, I want to give you the opportunity. You're not, you know, you're not the only, right? And it, this, whether it just be infidelity, whether it be doing what you're supposed to be doing as a man in your marriage, regardless, right? I want you to speak to the men that may be out there feeling like they don't have an outlet, feeling like they've been piling things up, considering fidelity, in infidelity, having gotten caught. I mean, a man at any stage, right, in your story, give him some direction,
Oh
like some warning, some. I mean, what you done differently, right?
yeah. I guess they're different. I guess they're different. Depending on the phase they're in. If you're in it right now and no one knows, find a group of guys and tell them. And then you're going to need to go tell whoever it is, your wife, or that you're doing it. That is the hardest thing you'll ever have to do in your life. The honesty, the honesty is the hardest thing that you'll ever have to do. So if you're in it, find a group of guys first. Um, Find somebody that you can talk to, a group of godly men. I don't mean men that are going to tell you, and if they say, "Oh yeah, don't worry, just get out of it, and you don't have to share this with anybody." No, find a group of
Okay.
godly men that'll lead you into honesty and into truth, because I didn't do that. Um, if I would have been able to be open and honest, and that's one thing she shared with me at one time, was that, I could process the honesty better if you just tell me everything, tell me what happened, than me having to find out, because it's the honesty that makes the relationship. So I would say you step into some honesty. And if you have a hard time doing that, find a group of guys you can be honest with that can lead you into that. And 1122 has the best men's discipleship groups out there. So I'd say find one, find your guys that you can be involved in, that you can share that with. If you've already gone through it and it's out in the open and you're dealing with it, the shame or embarrassment, regret, man, run to God as quickly as you can. I think, and one of the things Pastor Joby always talks about is that, that's the difference between children, is they run to a true child runs to their parents when they messed up. One that's not runs away and tries to hide it. If it's out in the open or it's something like that, just run to God. Know that there is still a plan. That there is still a plan. It would be arrogant to feel like I messed up so bad to where God doesn't have a plan for me. That means that would mean that you feel like he's not big enough to handle your problem. And I shared that with a guy one time who was feeling it was about something different. And I was like, man, you know what? I said, it may feel noble to say that or to feel that way. I said, but you're really kind of telling the Lord that, hey, your sacrifice, Jesus, your son's sacrifice on the cross, that wasn't enough for what I did. Really didn't cover what I did. You didn't plan for that, which is ridiculous when you say it out loud. So yeah, I would say if it has happened and you're living with that, run to him. And that would mean, again, finding a group of guys that you can be vulnerable with, that can help you with that, and that can step you through that. And I would say too, man, and I got counseling. Find a Christian. If you're going to get counseling, find a Christian counselor. I say find a godly counselor that can help step you through that as well, because that helped me a lot. Because at the beginning, before I'd shared with all our guys, I was going to him and having him, a true man of God, as an outlet every week that I could go to and tell him this, was the beginning of kind of realizing that, okay, there's somebody at least I can talk to And then it came out to sharing with our guys. So yeah, find somebody that's a godly man that you can go to and that can hold you accountable and that can walk you.
Powerful. All right. Close this out, man.
All right, we're going to pray. Amen. Father, I thank you so much, God. I thank you so much for tonight. I thank you what you've given us. I thank you that you've been a part of our lives from the beginning, that your sovereign plan always comes faithfully. Lord, that you have a plan for everything that's happened in our lives and that is going to happen in our lives. Lord, I pray for those guys right now. I pray for the men out there right now that are struggling, may not know where to turn or how to turn. I ask you right now to open the doors, to give them a place to turn. Send them the right men, send them the right people, send them the right places, whatever you need to do, Father. I ask you right now by your Holy Spirit that, Lord, you just get rid of the shame. You show them that you still love them and they still belong to you, that they are still yours, Father. I thank you for them, and I thank you, Lord, for the marriages of the men that are still fighting to keep their marriages, that may be struggling with that. Lord, I ask you just to intervene right now. Give them the openness to talk to their wives, to communicate, to do what you've called them to do, to stand firm and act like men, and to do everything in love towards the families that they have now. Let them see the results if they don't, Father. Lord, either bless them or break them, Father, but Lord, bring them to you so that they know you, Father. I ask you to cover this, cover those men, Lord, right now. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
That was beautiful. That's a wrap. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Witnessed.
If this podcast has blessed you, share it with someone, subscribe to this channel, and like this episode.
Go now and witness to the ends of the earth.